Today I want to begin with an overview of what social media is and why it is useful. We begin by looking in general at what we will be doing throughout this course. So we will look at social media, at access control and privacy policies. We'll look at how spying and advertising can be used based on information that you publish. We'll look at how you can browse anonymously and how, if we could automate privacy policies, how great that would be for you. And then we look at also other approaches that you can use to secure your profile. However, today what I would like to do with you is just about social media, the history, examples, usefulness. We all know about social media. We know that we use Facebook. If you don't like Facebook, you're probably on LinkedIn because you're looking for a job, or you have a job and you want a better job. You're probably using Wikipedia to get information about different topics that are of interest to you and that you want to learn about. Or you're looking at YouTube to look at some video to learn something interesting that you're interested in. Everything about social media is about sharing, it's about messages, it's about information, it's about collaboration. But social media isn't new. In fact, as early as before the 1900s, we had aspects of social media. We met, for example, for parties, for social events in which we discussed things together. And then when we were at far distances, we wrote letters and we had horses and carriages or mailmen, or we had maybe people who went around, running around to spread messages. On the back of that, we followed that up with telegraphs because we needed more speed for communications. We look at, we saw, for example, things like the Morse code that emerged for making telegraphic messages possible. That followed on by the invention of the telephone, which made communication even faster, and then the radio, where we could have broadcasting, which again was some kind of social media because then several people could access the same information at the same time. In the 20th century, things evolved a little bit faster. We saw the invention of computers from as early as the Second World War. We saw, for example, the invention of the internet with things like CompuServe that allowed users to interact and to share information. We saw, for example, Usenet that allows communication in the form of a virtual newsletter, so we could have published information that people could access jointly and get information in a collaborative fashion. From 1997 to 2001, we saw the first real social media sites as we know them today, which allow for example, user profile updates, for friendship formations with different other users. In the late 1990s, we began to see things like blogging sites that are still popular in social media even today. And then we come into the 20th century where we begin to see really social media in the way that we have it today, with things like inventions like MySpace, like LinkedIn, like Flickr, like YouTube, Facebook, which is immensely popular, Twitter. What would we be without tweets? Okay. And these platforms have become really interesting, really popular to users because they allow us to interact in ways that mimic real-life interactions. You can be, for example, in the United States and have a discussion with somebody in New Zealand, and it wouldn't make a difference, except maybe for the time differences. But you would be able to interact, you would be able to talk, and it's low cost. It's very different from what it used to be to make a phone call or to write a letter and wait several months to receive the reply. So replies happen on the dot, on the minute, on the second. And this has revolutionized methods of staying in touch. We can talk to each other, we can interact, we can share information. And there's so much information out there in terms of social media. So for example, you can use social media to book to bookmark websites that are published or that that other people are interested in. You can use social media, for example, to vote on articles, to vote on films, to vote on music clips. You can use social media in terms of social networking as we know it, or is the most popular, as we know it on Facebook. We can interact with other people, we can comment on profiles, we can comment on figures, we can comment on pictures, and we can join groups and have dynamic discussions. We can use social media also, for example, even for editing articles. So for example, when you have things like Wikipedia, you can write something on Wikipedia, for example, and then have some opinion written, and then somebody else will comment and correct it. And in the end, by working collaboratively, we get some article that is consistent and that is correct. So in other words, the joint work not only allows for sharing information with each other about random things, like for example, photo and video sharing, but also allows us to improve ourselves, to pull together information and to jointly develop knowledge that is useful to everybody and that is essentially representing a correct view. So if we were to capture social media, if we were to say, to define social media, I think what we would say is that it's a series of websites, it's a series of web applications that are dedicated to community-based input, interaction, content sharing, and collaborations. So other usefulness of social networks, because it has so much potential for information that people would give each other or that would share voluntarily. There is a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity for example, marketing. Companies wanting to market products benefit a lot from the information that is published on social media. Companies wanting to look at things like analytics benefit from the information that is on social media. Enterprise social networking, crowdsourcing, all of this information is very beneficial to people, and therefore it becomes very important to make sure that when you publish the information, you make sure that your information is kept secure and that it's kept private. Okay. Books that are of interest, social media, so that you can look at what social media is in general. Privacy online, what you need to do to keep your information private. Security and privacy, because these work in parallel, it's important to keep information secure. Having a good password, for example, implementing the right access control policies are very important to keeping your information secure. I have the book on data and Goliath because essentially all of the information that we publish is becoming big information that is of interest both to good people and to bad people. And so you need to be careful.